How's it going, everybody? This is Tyler Louder, joined with Aaron Benn, and we are Second and Short NFL podcast show. Aaron, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you, Tyler?
I am doing amazing. Breaking the fourth wall.
That's great.
It is almost midnight. However, March is ending, April starting, which means the draft is getting closer and closer, and I'm getting very excited. Getting tired of reading mock drafts, however. I was reading a mock draft the other day, and they decided to put Jordan Love ahead of Justin Herbert, and I feel like they're just doing it to mix it up so people will keep reading these things.
Yeah, there always comes a point in the season where they just kind of, in order to be different, they will just kind of do really questionable things, and it gets kind of ridiculous.
What I think they should do, in my opinion, is like when you start a mock draft in like February, you should give 5 names who are available who you think they could pick. And then like every month that you release a mock draft, get rid of a name. So like you're not just like throwing something together. We've kind of seen that this team might draft this person this whole time. You just went a different direction.
Yeah, that could be interesting, like show the evolution of the draft.
Exactly. Like at this point I had them taking them, but I could see them taking any of these guys. And then next month, hey, these guys overtook them. It's kind of like a power ranking per draft pick. However, I'm not going to critique how professionals do their professional mocks per se.
Yeah, I mean, they took classes on how to do mock drafts.
I have no degree in mock drafts, which is funny because we're actually going to be doing a mock draft before the draft starts, but yeah. Whatever. It'll be one and done. That'll be it. Short, sweet, simple.
And we're not going to draft.
Yeah, of course. No research, obviously.
None.
So let's talk about no news and notes today because we're, again, fourth wall breaking. We're recording this very shortly after we recorded our last episode, and that's where all of our news and notes went. So let's talk about a little speculation. Every professional sport has kind of modified their season, either by canceling or we see like the NBA is going to be having their own 2K players only tournament, which I have been telling everybody that they should do for like 3 weeks now. And I'm getting no credit for it, but that's okay.
Oh, they're finally listening, and maybe sometimes that's all the credit you need.
You really think Adam Silver listens to our podcast?
I mean, probably. I wouldn't doubt it.
He's one of the tens of views. So that's going to be pretty cool to see, but let's do a little speculation. The NFL draft, it's a 3-day extravaganza. It's something fun to watch. It's one of those things like you get off work on Thursday night and you get to watch primetime draft, and it's awesome. It takes forever, but it's one of the only things you can sit and watch for 4 hours, and it doesn't feel like it takes 4 hours, or at least for me.
Yeah, it's like sometimes it feels like you're waiting a long time, especially in the first round for the pick to get in, but they always have there's always a lot of build up and speculation and like the talk about the previous pick and how that affects this pick, and I like the whole like tension and build up and everything.
Yeah, there's just so much breakdown behind it. So here's an idea, and I'm not going to take credit from it. I've seen this all over Reddit, essentially, is where I've seen it the most. But people have been talking about how come they don't expand the NFL draft in days, kind of move rounds to different days, stretch it out, give the fans something new each day. What are your thoughts on if they actually did this?
But you're talking about just this year, right?
Absolutely, because we have nothing else going on. There's no other sports going on. It would fill the time slot. It would add, promotional revenue for them, which is what they want, and it would also give more coverage to more players, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. And also, I think it also benefits the teams because it's got to be harder, messier, and not as organized to have your whole war room be virtual. Like you have to be contacting everyone through Skype or Zoom or I don't know what. So if you had just that one round each day, it would be a lot easier to be organized and talk to your team better. So I think that could be beneficial for the teams as well.
Yeah, what I picture with how the war rooms are going to look is you've seen the movie Moneyball, right? About the Oakland Athletics. Okay, so I just picture a war room similar to when he brings in his analytical guy, where they're like, "Hey, we have all these guys we've been scouting for forever," and then he's just like, "No, we're gonna start over right now when we have no time." That's how I feel like every war room is gonna look. Like they're just like, "Wait, him?" And I think this draft is gonna be the most unpredictable draft we're gonna have. And the reason why I said that I agreed that they should spread the draft out, even if they just expanded it one day. Thursday's round 1, Fridays 2 and 3, Saturdays 4 and 5, Sundays 6 and 7. Because it would give teams more time between rounds to establish what their needs are, see their boards, reevaluate, call for trades. And that's something that I feel like we're actually gonna miss out on this year, is the trading, because so many teams aren't going to have these like hidden gems in like the 4th round that they randomly just trade up for. You're not expecting it and take a guy, They're going to kind of follow the general draft board. Let's jump into our next divisional breakdown for their offseason, review, preview, whatever you want to call it, of free agency in the NFL draft. And we're going to go to the AFC West. We just talked about the team in the NFC West, the San Francisco 49ers, who lost in the Super Bowl. So let's switch it over and let's start with the team that beat them in the Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs, defending Super Bowl champions.
Let's go! First and goal, pass, open, touchdown, Kelsey, Chiefs are back in it.
We haven't been able to say that for 50 years. Well, you and I haven't ever said that.
I mean, I've been waiting 50 years for them to win again.
It's insane how you've been able to do that, waiting an extra negative 22 years of your life.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
Let's talk about these Chiefs. When you're a Super Bowl champion, do you really even need to add stuff to your roster? Like, aren't you just good to go?
I think as long as you're not trying to improve, then you're only getting worse. And I think they're not going to be satisfied just with the status quo, even if they did win. I think a champion in any sport, in any field, needs to always be trying to get better. That said, they did lose a few pieces on defense, like Emmanuel Ogbah, Jordan Lucas, Reggie Ragland. So they do need to shore up their defense, because the defense was not very good a couple of years ago. Aren't they last in the league?
In a couple of things. I mean, their pass defense was actually pretty good considering what people thought. I mean, adding Tyrann Mathieu to that backfield, or the defensive backfield, really helped. That moved them up to 8th, but they were 26th against the run, and it showed at times, especially like in the regular season against Derrick Henry. There are other games too, but losing, Reggie Ragland, I feel like, is one of those Alabama linebackers who was supposed to be special, and he's just kind of he's a jag. He's just a guy. I don't think losing him.
It happens a lot with Bama guys, it seems.
Yeah, which is a surprise, except for if you're a wide receiver. They tend to pan out. But losing defensive players when your team struggles against the run isn't good. However, they did keep one of their most crucial players, and that is defense tackle Chris Jones.
Yeah.
I think keeping him is huge. Being able to keep a guy that young. I mean, I was predicting all year long that he was going to end up being a free agent, because they weren't going to want to pay him, because they were going to want to spend money elsewhere. However, they don't have to, push out any big contracts yet for some of these key players, and they're kind of getting some good deals with some of their guys. They also kind of, shored up their offensive line. They brought in offensive tackle Mike Remmers, who was a former right tackle for the Carolina Panthers and Minnesota Vikings. And however you want to think about him as not that good, if you're a Panthers fan, you remember Von Miller destroying him in the Super Bowl 50 over and over. I mean, that's what happens when the number 2 pick goes up against an undrafted free agent. It just happens. But either way, he has starts under his belt. He's a starter. which is good. Even if he only starts a couple games, it means that he's a veteran presence. And they also upgraded at guard.
Yeah, they brought in Steve Wisniewski, so that should help as well.
Now, this team is going to need to improve their run defense even more. So, they could draft anywhere on that defensive side, and I wouldn't be surprised. Now, they did make an interesting signing. We talked about this a couple weeks ago. They did sign an XFL quarterback, St. Louis Battlehawk. Right? Talk about that. Who did they get to go behind Patrick Mahomes?
Yeah, they got Jordan Ta'amu, who was the throw-in Samoan. Played for Ole Miss through the A.J. Brown and DK Metcalf a couple of years ago. He was this, like you said, St. Louis Battlehawks quarterback in the XFL this year. From the 5 games that we saw, he was one of the better quarterbacks in the league. He's a good decision maker. Didn't throw too many dangerous passes. He's mobile, but he's not going to look to run like as soon as his first read isn't open. And he's got a decent arm. He's pretty accurate. So I like the signing. I think he can learn. I mean, obviously he's not going to start over Pat Mahomes, but I think it's a good opportunity for him to learn and see what the NFL is all about.
Yeah, I think he'll have a real chance to compete and beat out Chad Henne for the number 2 spot if, all this hype from the XFL follows through. But going to a place that has a young established quarterback isn't a big concern for me for these XFL guys. He's going to a place that has Andy Reid, who can work with any quarterback. Any quarterback that Reid touches, I feel like is going to be a successful quarterback in the NFL. What this will do is it's probably like a 2-year deal. I don't have the specifics in front of me, but I'd assume it's like a 2-year deal, which he can learn for 2 years, enter free agency, get on with the team as a legit backup, and then win a starting job eventually. I mean, it's a long process, but the XFL is already showing that it's the correct decision for these players to go when they are bottom barrel of teams.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a reason he's not in that. There's a reason that he went to the XFL, because he didn't stick around on any NFL team. And so no one, including him, is expecting him to come in right away and start for an NFL team. So I think it's a really good opportunity for him.
Kansas City Chiefs. First pick is pick 32, obviously. Second pick is pick 63. Where are they going to go? What are they going to do with these picks? I mean, they're late picks. Projecting a player is going to be very hard. They only have 5 picks in this draft, and that's rounds 1 through 5. They don't need to draft a lot of depth guys. I think they're going to re-sign a lot of their lower tier free agents back. Where are they going to go?
I've seen some people having them take a running back. I don't know if I would take a running back in the first. I mean, they're in a difficult spot to take a running back because technically it's the first round, but it's like so close to the second round that might as well be a second round pick. And then by the time they pick their second round pick, maybe the best running backs will be gone. So it's kind of an awkward position.
Now, here's the thing. With it being the 32nd pick, it is last pick in the first round, which means it is the last pick to have fifth year option eligibility. I think they are in a prime position to trade back. I don't think they need to trade back, but I think somebody's going to give them an offer that they can't refuse, and somebody's going to want to jump in, get a quarterback at 32, similar to what the Minnesota Vikings did a couple years ago with Teddy Bridgewater. You know, they jumped right back in right at the end, got him, had the fifth-year option available. You know, things didn't work out due to injury and everything, but I think that's what might happen. And I agree. I think it is a very weird place because you want to take a player if you need him. And I'm not saying they need a running back, but drafting a running back should be a priority on this team. I mean, they were 23rd in rushing yards. Say what you want about Damian Williams. He had a great playoff. However, that doesn't tell the whole story of his career. I mean, the guy does not get a lot of touches throughout his career each season. I think he is a complimentary back. I think if they could get somebody, let's say they move back like 8-10 spots, and they draft, 8 to 10 in the second round, If they can get DeAndre Swift, if he falls, that'd be a great pick for them. Jonathan Taylor, that'd be a really good pick for them. And it would improve this offense tremendously.
Yeah, I agree. We've seen it a lot in like the past few years that not necessarily with a 32nd pick, but some team that picked early, they'll trade up and try to jump back in the first round, like you said, Teddy Bridgewater, or the Ravens did with Lamar Jackson. So I think that's definitely within the realm of possibility here too.
Now, let's say they pass on running back. Let's say they keep their pick 32 and they pass on running back. I think that they could take running back at the second round pick. I have running back in mind that I think will be available. But with their first pick, they could easily go defense. They can get another cornerback to continue to, shore up and dominate this pass defense that's been improving every year. Or they could get one of these, off the ball linebackers to help out in coverage, help with the run game. They can go a lot of different directions. I think if they wait to go to number 63 for a running back, it would be the best thing for them situational wise, because I think LSU running back Clyde Edwards-Helaire would be a great pick for them. He's got great hands. He can play out of the backfield. He can play in the slot. And I think a team that is very pass heavy could use a running back that is very dynamic like that. Essentially what they were hoping, LaShawn McCoy could have been had he not been so, worn down. Yeah, old. Worn down was what I was going to say. A lot of usage, but I think that'd be a great pickup for them. If they can go out and get another, a run stuffing like linebacker that can just, check from sideline to sideline, and they can get Edwards-Helaire in the second round, I think that'd be a win for the Chiefs and would set them on a place to continue to win this division. So from the Chiefs, let's move over to the Denver Broncos.
Thomas Davis walked off under his own power on third down. Locke looking end zone for Sutton, and the diving attempt. Did he get it? Touchdown! What a catch!
A team that is always in the shadows of John Elway, in my opinion. I feel like John Elway is always in the press because he wants to be seen more than anybody else, and he wants to be like, I made these decisions, I did this. Now, I think this is his best offseason. Signing Peyton Manning a couple years ago was splashy and, was fun. However, the moves that he has made so far to bring in people, to trade for people, to re-sign his guys has been huge.
Yeah, I feel like he added a few key pieces to the team. They added Jarrell Casey from the Titans, got him for a 7th round pick. Jarrell Casey is a very good player. He's a good defensive tackle. Throughout his career, he's gotten a relatively high number of sacks relative to his position. It's starting to decline, but he's still a good presence on the line, gets pressure on the quarterback. They also traded for AJ Bouye from the Jags, who's replacing Chris Harris Jr., who left in free agency. They also got Melvin Gordon, which is interesting. Melvin Gordon, the running back from the Chargers, who says he got higher offers from other teams, but the thought of going to a team in the AFC West to face the Chargers really appealed to him. So that's kind of interesting. They also added defensive players Justin Simmons and Shelby Harris.
With the whole Melvin Gordon thing, I thought it was very interesting because first reports all across everywhere that I was talking, social media wise, fantasy leagues, in group chats, or our group chat, is that everybody was saying like, oh man, he cost himself so much money by not taking that $10 million deal from the Chargers last year. And he still is getting $8 million. But to hear that he took less money to play against the Chargers doesn't surprise me. We see a lot of players nowadays that I don't want to make them seem like villains, but they're very spiteful. And if teams did them kind of dirty, they'll go somewhere that someone's going to play them. I wouldn't be surprised, like I was talking about, Panthers just the last couple episodes ago, if Cam Newton doesn't sign somewhere who plays the Panthers in 2020. Like, I could expect that. And Melvin Gordon did it here.
Yeah, I think it's sort of a point of pride where like you don't think I'm good? Well, watch me beat you.
And here's the interesting thing. I've been hearing Broncos fans, mainly one of our friends who will remain nameless. I won't say his name.
Cody.
But everybody thinks that Philip Lindsay was the real deal. And I'm not hating on Philip Lindsay at all. I also, I liked Royce Freeman. But they still ranked 20th last year in rushing yards per game for the Denver Broncos as a whole. And I think Melvin Gordon is going to be the best running back for that team. I think he's a very complete running back. I think he is a better pass catcher than what they have. I think he's a better runner up the middle than what they have. I think the key point with Lindsay was that he is so cheap. Why spend money on something else? And I get that.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. You also have to wonder if Melvin Gordon is going to be the player that he was a couple of years ago, where he was one of the best running backs in the league, or if he's going to be like last year, where he kind of wasn't as great. He had a bit of problems fumbling the football. So I think it's kind of a risky move, but it could pay off well. I think the Broncos also have to decide what they're going to do with Lindsay, if they can get a decent return for him in a trade or something like that.
Yeah, and that's what I thought this whole time. I'm sitting here waiting for the draft to come around where somebody misses out on a running back in the first 2 rounds and we see Philip Lindsay get traded, is what I'm expecting. Now, the past 2 years have not been kind to Melvin Gordon, yardage-wise, but he still scores touchdowns at a higher rate than Philip Lindsay. He is a better pass catcher, and that's what I think is key. This team is going to be starting out a second-year quarterback in Drew Lock, who doesn't have a lot of starts under his belt. And I always think young quarterbacks need 2 things. They need a running back that can pass block / catch, and they need a reliable tight end. If they have those 2 things, they can grow confidence faster than just having like a flashy wide receiver and like a running back that can play 2 of the 3 downs, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So if you're the Denver Broncos, do you get rid of Lindsay or do you get rid of Royce Freeman?
I think I could get a bigger return for Philip Lindsay. I mean, you're not going to get a first-round pick for him. You could probably get 4th, 5th-round pick Philip Lindsay, whereas Freeman, I don't know if anyone really is going to give up a pick for him.
No, and I don't think so at this point now, because they've put themselves in a position where, in my opinion, teams don't have to pay that much, because if you want to get rid of a running back, then cut him, is what I would say if I was in a team. Now, let's talk about the defensive ads. I think keeping Justin Simmons, who had a fantastic season last year, was very smart. I think this Broncos team needs help defensively in a couple aspects, because in my opinion, the Denver Broncos of the past 5 to 10 years have had a really elite defense. And right now they ranked 11th in pass defense and 16th in run defense. And that's not terrible. However, it is not the Broncos that we know of old. And I think keeping the playmakers coming up is huge. Now, like I said, Justin Simmons, 4 interceptions last year. He had 93 combined tackles. This is back-to-back years he's had over 90 tackles. And that's what you want from a safety. You want a guy that's able to cover the field, bring people down. The big moves, though, is Jarrell Casey graded out 74.2 last year at defensive tackle. And then Shelby Harris graded out at 76.8, had a little breakout for himself based on PFF numbers. I think that is key, because if you have guys that can play on the inside of that defensive line that can cause more pressure and maybe pick up a double team, you'll see literally Von Miller get more sacks.
Yeah, I mean, they always say the game is won in the trenches, like offensive and defensive line. And I think that the Broncos line is looking really good right now. And I mean, if you have Von Miller, that's always going to be a huge advantage.
Okay, so they drafted pick 15, pick 46. Some of the needs that we talked about them, needing is, I think they need, more, another defensive back. I know they have AJ Boye, but AJ Boye did not play very well last year. It could have just been the whole thing about Jacksonville, where people in Jacksonville have just been kind of, it's like a teeter-totter. Either you have a really good season or a really bad season. There's no consistency there. And losing Chris Harris, who I'm not even gonna say maybe, who is the best slot corner in the game, is a huge loss, even if you get Boye. So I have defensive back, cornerback being a need. I have offensive line being a need because, honestly, if you can't protect Drew Lock, you're never going to get to see what he really is. Otherwise, instead of him being the guy, he's just going to be the next guy. And then I also think wide receiver is a need. I don't think they have a lot of speed. Cortland Sutton doesn't get a lot of separation. He was ranked towards the bottom in the league. On a recent stat I saw from somebody, I forget what it was, but he ranked in the bottom 6 of separation before his catches and everything, which really doesn't matter in my opinion if you're still getting catches. However, they need some speed.
I agree. They do need a speed guy outside of to complement Sutton. I've seen some mock drafts have them taking Henry Ruggs. I don't know if he'll fall to them. I've seen a lot of situations where those first 3 guys are taken by the time Denver picks, and then it's kind of high to be taking one of the next tier guys from the wide receivers. I've also seen people having them take a quarterback because they don't believe in Drew Lock. I don't really agree with that. I think you need to give Drew Lock a chance to see what he can do. I probably would have them taking offensive line in the first round, if not cornerback, because offensive line they could be in position to take one of those top tier offensive tackles, or one of the top cornerbacks.
Yeah, I mean, I like a lot of the players they have on the offensive line. I do like Garrett Bowles. I do like Dalton Risner, Graham Glasgow, Juwan James. They have some names at the offensive line. I just think we need more consistent play. I think Drew Lock is going to be fine. I don't know what to think of him exactly as a franchise quarterback right now. However, I think it is his job. If they're going to make a move at quarterback, I think it'll be in free agency. It'll be bringing in somebody like Cam Newton, Andy Dalton, a veteran that's got some age on him that can come in and be on the bench, essentially as a safety option, which could be for cheap, for nothing. Right now, his backup is Jeff Driscoll. So that's not good right there, in my opinion. I think he could use more veteran leadership at quarterback to help him out. Losing Joe Flacco, I think, is huge for them, not as a starter at all. I think Joe Flacco is done being a starter in the NFL, but I just think he could bring a lot to Drew Lock's game as a leader mentally as well.
I agree. I think every young quarterback needs a good veteran presence to kind of mentor him, help him learn, help him grow as a quarterback.
So by pick 15, they might be out of the running for the top 3 receivers or the top 4 tackles, and they're going to miss out on maybe a corner or 2. Is this a team that can trade up? They have an extra 3rd round pick. They've already shown that they're not afraid to trade. They traded for 2 defensive players already. They have 8 picks. They could easily ship their 77th or 95th 3rd round pick with their first and move up a couple spots. Talk to the Cleveland Browns and be like, you guys won free agency. Do you really need to draft at 10?
Yeah, there may be one of those teams ahead of them feels like there's a few guys that will still be available that they're looking at, even if they trade down. So maybe they'll think it's worth picking up an extra 3rd round pick to trade down a couple spots.
Who knows? The Jacksonville Jaguars are number 9, and they like to collect draft picks this offseason, so that could be a situation as well. Okay, so we talked about Melvin Gordon a lot with the Broncos. Let's talk about where he just left. He's leaving California for sunny Denver. But he leaves the team behind that, in my opinion, should have kept him because their run offense was not really strong. Austin Eckler looked awesome for the Los Angeles Chargers.
Call back. Big 3rd and 4 here.
3rd and 4 with Flacco in the gun. Bosa on him, and that will make it a long field goal attempt.
However, he was better in the passing game. They lose Phillip Rivers. They lose Russell Okung, Thomas Davis. They lose a couple linebackers. Is this team going to even try this year? Or are they kind of losing for Lawrence?
It kind of seems to me like this is a team starting to rebuild, even though there hasn't been a whole lot of talk about a rebuild with them. Maybe they just don't know it yet. I don't think they'll be in the running for Lawrence exactly, because I also think they're going to draft a quarterback this year. But they have lost a lot of key pieces, and I think, like you said, Melvin Gordon was a big loss because what's his name? Austin Eckler is not every down back. Even though some games he's getting more touches than Melvin Gordon, he's not that guy that you can run it up the middle or on 3rd and short and things like that. So I think they do need a workhorse running back.
And a lot of people have actually been thinking that Justin Jackson, who is going into his 3rd year, could be the guy. He was a 7th round pick out of Northwestern, and he's kind of got that, he's got a decent size. He's just shy of 200 pounds. He's 6 foot tall, but yeah, Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson right now, I don't think are going to get the job done. They both averaged over 4 yards a carry. However, they still had less carries than Melvin Gordon, who played 4 less games than Eckler. So that's concerning for me, the fact that Eckler had 4 games to establish himself as the guy, and yet they still went back to Gordon for a majority of the stuff.
Well, and I think they also felt like they had to go back to Gordon, not only because Eckler is not that type of running back, but also because he's a 1st round pick, and they're not ready to give up on him until after the season.
Now, somebody they didn't give up on was Hunter Henry. We got the franchise tag there. I was kind of surprised on that because, they let go of Gordon. He was going to test free agency. We all knew Phillip Rivers was leaving. I kind of thought, all right, Hunter Henry's going to go too. They're just going to let these young, big-name guys go, and they're going to let their quarterback go, and they're going to start over. And they franchise him, which I think is a great thing. I think he is a tier 2 tight end. He's one of those guys that falls in that 5 to 10 range for me. And, he's a pretty decent tight end. He doesn't do anything flashy. I think he just does everything right.
Right, and he's kind of a safety valve, like what you talked about earlier, for a young quarterback who can come in and have his dependable tight end that he knows he can check down to, or that'll be blocking, or that'll basically have his back.
Oh, yeah. Right now, it's looking like Justin Herbert is going to be the 3rd quarterback available. If the Chargers get him and he gets to start over Tyrod Taylor, he's got passing options like crazy. Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, Austin Eckler, and Hunter Henry is a great setup for a rookie quarterback. A lot of pressure, but it's a great setup. Now, why couldn't this team just sit back and not draft a quarterback and just be bad again? Why couldn't they do that?
I think they have, like you said, they have too many good players to do that. All of the players you just named, especially Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, who's not exactly the star that he should have been, but he's still a good wide receiver. I think they have too many good players for them to tank. And I don't believe in tanking anyways, but that's a different point. So I think it's not like the Miami Dolphins where they're just trading away all of their good players and that it's pretty obvious that they're not going to be good. I think they could come in and surprise some people this year.
Well, they did make a trade earlier in the offseason. They got rid of Russell Okung and his large salary cap for offensive guard Trey Turner from Carolina, who is a 5-time Pro Bowler. He has been a mainstay at right guard for Carolina for several years. and he was their tail end of Jonathan Stewart and early Christian McCaffrey. And with that move, they had a hole at, left tackle. And that's where people were sitting there just like, maybe they'll sign somebody and maybe they'll draft somebody. And they went out and signed somebody. They went out and signed Brian Beluga out of Green Bay, who I think might profile better as a right tackle for them, but they do have a huge hole at left tackle. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. They were great in the passing yards last year. Was that just Phillip Rivers, or was that the talent around it? It'll remain to be seen. But let's talk about their defensive adds. They have 2 guys they added on defense that I think are going to help bolster this team even better than they did last year. And they were good at defense. They're 5th in the pass defense and 18th in run defense.
Right, and they have a great secondary that with Derwin James and they do have a great secondary. Last year with Casey Hayward, Derwin James, Desmond King, like all of those are really good players, and they only got better by adding Chris Harris Jr. from the Broncos. He's, like you said, I also think he's the best slot corner in the league. In terms of defense, they also added Linval Joseph, who's a big, heavy boy who could play on the interior defensive line. He just left the Vikings, and he was a solid defensive line presence for a lot of years there. So he should help them as well.
I mean, I think adding Linval Joseph is huge because, like we just said with the Broncos, if you can have that guy in the middle that is like a wall that teams can't run on, they're going to try and throw more. And then Joey Bosa and Melvin Ingram are going to be able to get around the edge and get more sacks. And if this team can improve on their defense a little bit more on the run defense, which is what they're obviously trying to do here, I think that's big. Now, they do have Jerry Tillery, who they took last year in the first round, despite him having a massive injury coming out of college, out of Notre Dame. He was able to come back late in the season and play. But I think this guy, if he wasn't hurt going into the draft last year, could have easily been a top 10, top 15 pick. And he fell to 28. They're going to reap the benefits. And this team, if they get the right quarterback, I don't know if it's Tyrod. It could be. But if they get the right quarterback and they get a little bit better in the run game, they could challenge the Chiefs for this division.
Yeah, and I mean, last year, before this season, people were talking about, I saw some people had them winning the AFC West. Some people had them making the Super Bowl. So it's not like they're coming off this 1 or 2 win season. They're still a good team.
Exactly. So look for them to maybe take a quarterback. I think they could add another linebacker, and I think that they could potentially add another running back. I know they just signed Eckler. However, we know running back shelf lives are short. It's, in 4 years, they could need a new running back. So why not draft one now, have a nice compliment back, get somebody late in the 3rd or 4th round. This draft class is loaded with running back, as is next year. But I think if they can address the quarterback position, keep shoring up that offensive line, and then just keep adding to their already great success at pass defense, they're going to be just fine.
Yeah, I agree.
Alrighty. Let's finish it off with the Las Vegas Raiders.
Carr to throw, and why wouldn't he? Right underneath the covers to Josh Jacobs. Jacobs stays on his feet. And down to the 32 of the Broncos. 28 in all effort for the rookie out of Alabama.
Sorry, it's just it's some adjusting. We get new logos of teams. We get teams moving. What is it with the Raiders? Like, this is like their 4th move, if you count going from Oakland to LA and then LA back to Oakland as a move. Like, and now they're moving again. Sorry, 3rd move to the Las Vegas. What do you think about this move to Vegas? Like, what does it do?
I'm gonna go back a few years to the when Las Vegas got an expansion team in the NHL. People were talking about how they didn't think Las Vegas can support a major sports franchise because most of the people in Vegas are they're not like full-time residents of Vegas. A lot of people go there temporarily, or people just going there on vacation. But the Vegas Golden Knights, they had a pretty solid fan base. They made I think them making the Stanley Cup Finals in their first year really helped to grow that franchise, and I think it helps set the stage for the Raiders to be able to come. And I think they'll be fine there. They're building this huge Death Star stadium. It should be interesting to see how that plays out.
Yeah, what I find the most interesting is not us talk about like gambling or whatever. For me, it's living in a location that has no NFL team. Flying to Vegas on like a 4-day weekend can be very affordable. And I'm happy because now I have another opportunity to watch a team that I enjoy if they play the Raiders in Vegas. I think the move is needed. I feel like fans are going to hate me for this, but I just feel like Oakland's outdated. It sounds weird to say that, but it's been so long since the Oakland Raiders were relevant. I mean, we haven't seen a really good Oakland Raiders team since Derek Carr almost won MVP that year, and then he got hurt. But before that, it was like 2002 with like Rich Gannon. This team lives off of its history than its future. And even its present isn't that, happy. However, they're trying to change the tide there. Gruden is not messing around. He took some time to get this going off the ground. They go through this Antonio Brown fiasco last year, and now they're just adding guys. They're adding good football players to help them at numerous positions. I have like 10 significant signings and only 2 losses.
Yeah, they really have been adding like solid players. These aren't all like day one starters, but they're solid depth players. Eli Apple, he's former first round pick. He's not gonna come in. He's not that shutdown corner that you want covering the number one receiver, but he is a decent depth cornerback. They added Jason Witten at tight end, who's a great veteran presence. Better playing on the field than Monday Night Football, so that's always a plus. So we don't have to hear him.
We all win there.
They added Nelson Aguilar at wide receiver. He's a decent speed guy. He's had a problem with drops lately, but not lately, throughout his whole career. But he is a decent speed wide receiver. And then they did things like re-sign Richie Incognito, who's a great offensive guard. And it looks like they just are making moves to improve the team. And they weren't great a couple of years ago because in Gruden's first year, because it looked like he was kind of cleaning house, getting his own guys. And it looks like that's kind of what is happening now. He's getting his own guys, and it looks like the team is kind of coming together.
Yeah, and I think a lot of these guys are great number 2s all over the spot. I think they're all great complementary pieces. However, I think they did hit the nail on one free agent signing, and that is somebody that graded out very well on Pro Football Focus, and that is Corey Littleton, who just came over from the Rams. He had the 9th most solo tackles last year. Among linebackers, he was in the top 5 for interceptions, top 10 for forced fumbles. The guy was just a playmaker. He did very well in all positions. I like him a lot. I kind of was like hoping Carolina could get him because I think he's this up and coming. He's 26, but he's this up and coming elite linebacker in my opinion. And the Raiders saw an opportunity to strike, when they had the right amount of money, and they let Tahir Whitehead go, and I think they improved in a more complete linebacker. Okay, so everybody hates Derek Carr, is what it seems like. We talked about this earlier. We don't really get it, why people hate him, but they brought in Marcus Mariota, and this is no dig at Mariota or anything, but they brought in Mariota, and I don't. Everybody's saying he should feel threatened. I don't know if he should. I think it's his job to lose, obviously, but I mean, in passing yards last year, the Raiders were 9th. In rushing yards, they were 13th. They had a competent offense. They just couldn't stop anybody, in the air on defense. That's all it was.
Yeah, I would be very surprised if Marcus Mariota started any games this season. I'm saying that as a huge Mariota fan. But yeah, I think Derek Carr is a franchise quarterback, like they're paying him. And I think any problems that they might have, I don't think stem from him. They obviously need to get him some help at the wide receiver position, which, I mean, he would have had that if Antonio Brown hadn't gone all Antonio Brown. But yeah, I think they're headed in the right direction.
Yeah, and I think bringing in somebody like Nelson Aguilar, they brought in Zay Jones midseason last year, who is like less popular Antonio Brown. Like if you read the news on Zay Jones, like he goes through some things.
Oh yeah, he's guano.
But bringing in Aguilar, I think, is interesting because it can establish that this is like support for the quarterback. Now, Tyrell Williams, I think, is more of a number 2. I don't think he should be a number 1. However, I don't think he was brought in to be the number 1. I think he was supposed to complement Antonio Brown. Hunter Renfrow out of Clemson, he's that little just. I hate saying Wes Welker because I feel like that's just like, yeah, it's just a stereotype that we put on like these like white wide receivers.
Patriots receivers.
Okay, we say Patriots receivers, but really it's like, oh, you're a white wide receiver that's under 6 foot tall, you're under 200 pounds, you must play in the slot, and you must like Wes Welker. Like, and that's a stereotype that we really put on these guys. However, he was a do-it-all guy for Clemson. He didn't back down from anybody, and he's kind of trying to be that compliment here for the Raiders. He had over 600 yards last year as a rookie, which for a guy his size is pretty impressive. He wasn't thrust into a starting role. I think that they're still going to go out and get another wide receiver in the draft. There's been so much talk about getting Jerry Jeudy or CeeDee Lamb right at their first pick at pick 12. I don't think they can wait to 19. If they want a bona fide number 1 wide receiver, they need to draft Lamb or Jeudy at 12. And then the best part about that is 7 picks later, you can address another cornerback or you can get more offensive line help. They have options just 7 picks down the road. And I personally think adding another wide receiver will just give this a really complete wide receiving room. Like Nelson Aguilar as a number 4 is really good for an NFL team, in my opinion. I think he'll recover from his drops. I think a change of scenery for him will be really good. Although I do think he is downgrading in quarterback play, but I'm a big Wentz fan myself, so that just could be why. What do you think they do with number 12 and number 19?
Well, I have to agree. I think they have a solid wide receiver core, but they are missing that number 1 guy. So I think they'll go either Jeudy or Lamb with the number 12 pick. If this was the Raiders of Al Davis like 10, 15 years ago, I'd say they'd get Ruggs because they used to love those speed guys. But yeah, I think Jeudy or Lamb with the 12th pick. With a 19th pick, like you said, cornerback, I have to agree with you.
Now, I'm gonna give you a situation because we're agreeing a lot right here, which is odd.
Yeah, it's not par for the course for us.
No, but it's okay to have it every now and then. Let's say a team jumps them. Let's say the Denver Broncos jump them. They move up to 10. They take Jeudy. 11 to the Jets, CeeDee Lamb, or vice versa. I don't care. They're sitting there at 12. Do they take Ruggs at 12? Will they take Ruggs at 12?
I think if it's me, I think they would, but if it was me, I wouldn't.
Can you elaborate on that? Why is that? Like, why wouldn't you? Do you not just see the value, or?
Because I don't think Ruggs is the type of wide receiver they need. They don't need another speed guy. They have Tyrell Williams that kind of fits that profile. Even Nelson Aguilar, that's kind of been his deal. I think they really do need that number 1 guy who's a good route runner, who can get separation. and can make those contested catches like CD Lamb. Like I think they need one of those guys. So in that situation, I think I would wait and probably draft like one of the second tier guys at wide receiver, like T. Higgins or Visca Chenault or or what's that Mims guy. I think that would be a good solution for them.
Now, before anybody sits here and like roasts or anything and saying like Tyrell Williams and Nelson Aguilar aren't speed guys, they're not speed guys the way that Ruggs is a speed guy. Like they're not going to run sub 4.3s, but they both ran 4.4, 4.42, 4.43 at their 40 time. So they're very fast receivers. You're just talking about a guy that's above that. And I mean, I think John Ross could scare some teams off of Ruggs. I mean, I do think Ruggs is a more polished route runner. I think Ruggs has this college pedigree sitting behind him called Alabama and the success that they've had at wide receiver recently. And I think that's going to help him a little bit move up the rankings. However, yeah, a guy like him, I think, should be a number 2 option. That's just me. Some team is going to see him as a number 1 and they're going to draft him like such. But I think T. Higgins would be a fantastic fit for them. They might have to get a wide receiver at 19 because I could see 5-6 receivers going in the first round of this draft.
Right, and I think they do need that big-bodied receiver who can just jump over everyone and get those catches.
Alrighty, well that's going to do it here for the AFC West off-season breakdown. This divisional breakdown is our 4th in this series, and we still have 4 more to go on. And we're going to make sure we get in each of these before the draft happens, and then we'll get our mock draft going just shy of the NFL draft itself. Be sure to check us out here on YouTube. Make sure you guys click that like button, hit subscribe. More content is going to continue to come. Even when this draft stuff is over and this offseason stuff's over, we're not going to stop because the NFL doesn't stop. It literally has new stuff happening all the time. And we're going to be able to talk about that with you guys. So if you like what we're doing here or you don't like what we're doing, go ahead and jump on Reddit and offer us a suggestion. We're open to it. I love listening to people telling me things.
Yeah, I like when people...
Okay, well that's going to do it for us at Second and Short. Thanks for listening, guys. Have a good one.